Hello everyone, this is Jacob, and this is the Logistics Mini Academy for the Concircle inner staff for their own education. Now, today we will be talking about type of logistics, physical supply chain or logistics design, and also Incoterms. As you can see, in logistics, we have kind of three major components. The inbound logistics, what comes from suppliers to our customer, the internal customer physical move and storage primarily, and then the outbound. The internal storage is basically a warehouse management systems, and then the inbound and outbound are typically handled by transportation management systems and by supplementary platform connectivity to those carriers. Now you see in my picture, it's a kind of a picture of a truck, right? But it doesn't need to be a truck. We have options for either of these movements for rail, trucking, or even courier here, ocean and air. I mean, not to mention too much here, but it's obvious that air is typically used very seldom for things like perishable or time-sensitive goods, high-tech components, or pharma. Ocean is used for pretty much everything. Fast moving consumer goods, heavy stuff, components, whatever. It is capacity driven. That's very important to mention. Truck is used for wherever is needed, primarily on the outbound, on the domestic field, and then rail is used for a bulk or for cheap movements or for movements of containers on as a pre-carriage and on carriage. It is important that whenever we sit with a customer and start to talk about logistics, to find out what is the physical supply chain, what is the scope of their movements that they want to cover in any solution, right, on any platform, and kind of do some sort of whiteboarding, or even this kind of a presentation boarding, whatever you want to really do, and to find out where does it start, where does it end. I have here a picture of a very complicated 5-leg movement between the origin and destination, assuming we have either using the air and ocean for the international transport. We see here the first movement on the origin is, say, a pallet being finished in the production of our supplier, being transferred to the warehouse of our 3PL, of what is called an origin operator, who creates a container, an ocean container. This ocean container goes with another truck, a little different one though, into the terminal, is handed over to a carrier who then transfer it over the ocean. For the air is a little different. There's a little bit different type of containers. I will get to it in next session. And then it goes over in the destination the same way until it is deconsolidated in the destination and brought to either our production or to our customer, depending whether we are on the outbound or the inbound. Important to mention, this flow could be really being built on both on the inbound and on the outbound. So you have to ask this question for both flows. Now, the origin warehouse sometimes is referred to as a cargo freight station if really the containers are being built. Often it is operated by the freight forwarder or origin operator companies like DHL, Kühlnagel, and so on. And the destination warehouse could be sometimes referred to as a distribution center, especially on the outbound flow when we need to bring our goods, or the customer needs to bring the goods nearby to the customer future consumption. The physical model could be various. It could be shorter on one end, it could be shorter on the other end. It doesn't really matter. It could be eventually only, for example, modeling the main leg, so the container sail off and arrival, right? That could be like the very minimum. Or a customer can ask us to model only the pre-leg or on carriage leg itself. Now, just to finish it up, so you can imagine we basically have also multiple mode of transports, right? The trucking is on the very origin, carrying the pallet as an example. Truck drayage, that's I think the little difference here. That's the truck which has the trailer which directly carries the ocean container. You could have seen it on the road. Sometimes it's there. It's literally the crane in the port is taking the container and moving it onto such a truck, right? It's being very common on both origin and on destination. And then sometimes this is used as a good strategy to basically bring it as close as possible to the customers, to the distribution center, and have it deconsolidated only there. So there is basically no physical movement needed on the way. And then basically the same thing on the other side. For the drayage, it could be either truck or rail. Very important thing, incoterms. And it's kind of already alluded to. It's not about the move. The move has to happen between the origin and destination, between the seller and the buyer, or between the shipper on this side and the consignee on this side. It is about who pays for the cargo, right? And who carries the risks and kind of duties of, for example, doing custom declarations. In our example, we have Incoterm FOB. So what is called a free on board. That means the supplier, the seller, in our case, entity in China, is in charge of the goods. So it also have it on these books, important thing, as well as pays for the cargo and for all the responsibility until the point it is brought onto the board of a vessel, right? It's very common in retail industry to have this Incoterms. Then the rest is basically on the buyer's responsibility. And there is various sources of description. There's also various versions of Incoterms, a lot of specification. I don't think we need to go too much into details. It is just important to know that every of the physical supply chain that you will be modeling for the customer, either on the outbound or inbound, to know at least what kind of Incoterms are being impose on these shipments, on these transactions, and that kind of gives us also the scope of or helps us with the scope of the shipment which it needs to support. As I said, the FOB, FAS is very used by inbound from Asia for retailers primarily, on the outbound from companies here in Europe when they send goods to their customers, either as a component, B2B or B2C. It is often used the DPU, DDP. For example, in retail, when you buy from Amazon or from any other platform, typically it is DDP. You don't even know that, and it's basically delivered almost to your door. Okay, so I hope this was informative and useful. Have a nice one.